Ladies and gentlemen, I come somewhat from left field to this discussion. I am neither a philosopher or a politician. I'm very much from a making culture background, and all of my career really has been spent very, very strongly trying to develop relationships between the high end of professional artists and the community. I don't entirely share Steve's gloomy view of cultural life, although I may say some of the same things as him, but I actually also have quite a lot of optimism. Certain European cities have a particularly profound energy and vitality, and I'd like to talk about these eventful cities, how they use culture to put themselves on the map. The eventful city, what does that mean? It's not about size, nor is it necessarily about a glamorous location. It is about stimulating partnerships and collaborations, helping to develop the opportunities offered by the broadest knowledge economy. It's not necessarily about the creative city in the Richard Florida sense, where a motivated middle class are driving a particular sense of cool. The eventful city is something different. I mean a city where there's a highly developed sense of place, where you sense a tangible buzz, something unique that you don't find elsewhere. It's a city prepared to take risks, which is excited by the unexpected. An eventful city comes together to discuss and to debate and to share spaces and ideas, to explore, to be curious and to create. There are many cities renowned for heritage or beautiful environment or their wealth. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are eventful. They may be extremely famous for festivals or specific gatherings, but still be extremely staid and museum-like. I'm ashamed to say that when I think of Salzburg or Bayreuth, I feel a kind of creeping claustrophobia, beautiful though those cities may be. Above all, the eventful city has attitude. It has a culture in the widest sense that puts culture in the specific sense at the heart of the community. The city with attitude is where there's a constant sense of what I would call cultural flow, where the widest population is really engaged with the cultural offer, where there's ongoing dialogue. The orchestra doesn't just perform, it talks to its audience, and the audience talk back. The theatre company is unafraid to embrace complex social issues and builds productions not only with its ensemble, but with kids' participation. The opera company commissions new work and then builds it with young artists and the local prison. It's where experimental rock musicians design their own festivals and build their own instruments and collaborate across international boundaries. It's where architects design living buildings for people, not to impress other architects, and where the new and immigrant population knows that its particular cultures are respected and not diluted, and that they are integrated into city programming as much or as little as they would like to be. I'm talking about places where no one would dream of using the words elite or integrated about art or culture, because art, culture, and diversity are the city's social glue. European capitals of culture were, of course, designed to exactly offer this kind of opportunity, and in some cases they've done so with considerable success and terrific initiative. In others, matters have disintegrated into appalling dispute and chaos. Few have really managed the legacy created in a structured or an honest way, principally because of lack of real leadership after the ECOC team has moved on. And sadly, few have really grasped the tremendous competence that their team accrued to build the city solidly and adventurously for the future. I directed Stavanger in Norway's year as European Capital of Culture for 2008. We chose to focus strongly on artistic projects which were designed to build wider urban development. Growing the identity and the confidence of the city as a creative hub was a priority. That's not to say that there weren't considerable issues. There will be inevitable frictions in any project with a big budget and as broad and undefined a set of criteria as that set out by the EU. The problems that arise tend to be predominantly between the perfectly reasonable entitlement felt by the local artists and the European or the international element of the year's programme. We try to address that by building Stavanger 2008 around a broad programme based on participation, which included multi-year residencies with companies especially chosen for their will to collaborate. We challenged these companies to build sustained long-term partnerships within the community. Other ECOCs have concentrated on capital projects or regeneration or developing tourism. On that note, in certain EU meetings in Brussels, there was a frightening amount of talk about bed nights, so much so that it was tempting sometimes to stand up and shout, "Remember culture?" In Norway, where I work, there is a certain sense of living in a bubble. A rich culture organisations, the ministry is implying, should be funded not on quality, on artistic merit or achievement, but according to demographic. If you have a film festival in Tromsø, then it should have the same funding as one in Telemark. I find this alarming. There is nothing democratic. There is nothing democratic about art. Norwegian trees may all be nearly the same height, but talent and creativity must be allowed to grow to match their aspirations. I'd like to see clear policies that allow for risk, that reward healthy surprise and innovation, that insist on collaboration both within the city and far beyond, and that particularly propose a broad plan for grassroots talent development. I don't mean competitions or specific awards for those already identified as future stars. The commercial sector already has that covered. Many cities have rising star awards for brilliant young musicians. I mean that built into every public funding for culture organisations, there should be a ring-fenced amount for the structured development and participation of young artists and makers. This policy would emphasise the need to identify potential and fresh ideas. If we don't identify and train our talents and nurture potential, not just performers, but producers, arts leaders and teachers and culture managers, we will not develop the beating heart of our cities or make them eventful. The city with nerve and attitude never patronises its people. It is not enough for the theatre company or orchestra or university arts department just to produce user-friendly seasons. The city must develop trust between its key culture institutions and their audiences. I say audiences plural because no smart performing arts organisation should have just one audience. It's inevitable that I mention opera given my present position, but I do believe that opera companies have an amazing opportunity to engage with every genre of art in the city. Here in Berlin, you have some shining examples which have certainly inspired my work. At Bergen National Opera, we've expanded way beyond the main stage, where we've fiercely enlarged the theatricality and the visual excitement of our repertoire, and expanded our audience into all kinds of collaborations with wider communities, with hotels, with chefs, with craft makers, with prisons, in the latter instance offering regular internships to inmates. Festivals. Eventful cities can thrive on festivals, especially if they're positioned strategically across the year. Smart festivals offer the opportunity for international guests to collaborate with locals and critically can drive real cross-border dialogue, bringing new ideas and energy and confidence. Festivals can also be critical to city branding. Edinburgh has named itself the City of Festivals and created an excellent and effective umbrella organisation embracing the International Festival, the Fringe Festival, Science, Children's and Book Festivals, along with the annual New Year Fest, Edinburgh's Hogmanay. This highly diverse organisation, Edinburgh Festivals, in effect sells the city as a multi-entertainment eventful destination. Finally, the eventful city must have living buildings which help to bring together the diverse needs of those who make and consume culture in the city, and critically, which bring a genuine citywide sense of ownership. Buildings which gather citizens, making them know that they make an essential contribution to the vibrant spirit and sense of place. A great building for our time is not about any individual or company's ego or an architect's kudos, but about creating a living hub for the city. That hub needs community spaces, education resources, cafes, casual meeting spaces. It needs to exclude welcome to everyone from singing kids to skeptical politicians, from feisty grandmothers to introvert singles. That building needs to underpin the way we want to live in the future. I say this with particular resonance because we are about to build a new opera house in Bergen, and I can see just what's going to happen. It's going to be regarded as another elitist museum for the city. Anyway, all of this needs leadership. It needs brave, long-sighted, honest, imaginative leadership that has both thick and thin skin. Thick skin to stick to the long game of being smart and eventful, with thin skin enough always to listen and to react with sensitivity. And cities need leadership that builds teams that trust each other, that share passion and believe in the place that they are hoping to make. They also need gatherings like this one here in Berlin, forums to share ideas, to talk shop, and to dream. I'd say the last of those three is the most important one. Let's all keep dreaming. It'll keep us creative. Thank you.